say congrats to you, Dave, on the first day of the last day sale. This is you talking?
Yes.
Okay. When you, Dave, decide to sell to the swarthy foreigners, we're not prejudiced. We sell to white foreigners as well. To live on the other side of the planet, will you give them a 24-hour discount? No. Or maybe a whole weekend, owing to time zones and the fact that it's Friday in Kitchener and Shrove Tuesday where they are. I promised I'd ask. No, my biggest concern with the International was I hate the idea of ballparking foreign or international prices. So that was one of the reasons I didn't want multiple buttons on Cerebus downloads. I'm going to be experimenting with selling stuff at Cerebus downloads, and I want to be able to just add a new whatever it is, and that button goes above the Raymar head button instead of these four buttons go on top of those four buttons. I want the thing that I'm still selling, that I've already sold or started selling, to be as available as this brand new thing that, oh, I didn't know this was available. Yes, I'll pick up one of these. And doing a Canada button, a US button, and an international button, and at that point, it really starts getting too complicated. Rolly reminded me today of another complication, which is international has surface, which it gets sent by boat, and air. So that's another one of those situations where we did get 3 international orders. We got one from Slovakia, one from Spain, and one from another country that starts with an S.
Sweden.
I can't think of. And it's like, okay, Rolly, these are the 3. Take them to the post office. Find out on each one what it's going to cost for surface and what it's going to cost for air. Slovakia is going to be a different situation from Spain because Spain is on the water, whereas Slovakia isn't on the water in terms of surface. So that's going to have a different price. Find out the different prices by, taking the book in. Each of the packages is going to be the same. And email the person, here's what it's going to cost to send this to you in Slovakia or send this to you in Spain, surface or air, your call. Go to Cerebus Downloads and just make a donation for that amount. So I'm not overcharging the guy in Slovakia because it's more expensive than Spain's rules, or overcharging the person in Spain because Slovakia has draconian post office rules of some kind, so that it is available. And at that point, I'm not having to make up 6 buttons for each item. And it's already complicated enough to say, okay, now we throw it open to the international without saying, okay, here's all of these different variables that apply for the first day. Here's all of these different variables that apply from now on. So that's the answer to that.
Well, again, I said I would ask.
Well, it's one of those. This is the same reason that I decided to go with we pay the HST, because the harmonized sales tax in Canada has to be added on to anything that I sell to somebody in Ontario. I've got to call in to my accountant going, it's a very popular ad approach in Canada. We pay the HST. And about 13%. And I'm going, okay, I've offered this. How does that actually work? How do we actually pay the HST on somebody's order of $99, which is going to be a shade under $113? But I did that because I wanted it to be one button, so that the Americans aren't paying the HST and the Canadians aren't paying the HST. One button, one price. So I like I say, I'm not really sure how that works, but we will be keeping track of it. There were, out of the 31 copies sold, 3 of them were to Canadians, which is pretty close to the ratio that you always get. The joke in Canada is, how do you do the census in Canada? You take the U.S. Census and you divide by 10. And it sounds like a joke, but almost everything works that way. That whatever you did in the United States, divided by 10, that's what you're going to do in Canada.
Okay.
Aren't you glad that you don't have to worry about these cross-border things very frequently? Did you do the thing that I asked you about of updating the exchange rate as we were getting closer to the first day's now?
I did. It was varying between 75 and 73 cents. And every time I posted, I'm like, here's the price, $79 Canadian. It goes up to, after 24 hours to 99. And then I would have, and this is today's exchange rate. And it was like, because I was following it and on Google, where when you can get a trend, and it's like you can do the past week, the past month, the past year, or ever type thing. And I was doing it so that it was every day, and it was these giant spikes. And I'm like, well, how much did it move? And I scroll over the spike, it's 75 cents. I'm like, what's this valley? 73 cents. I'm like, okay, apparently I had it on the daily.
Right.
So
yeah, it is. It does look like you're trying to revive a cardiac victim or something like that, because it's really Canada is massively in debt, but not to the tune of the Inflation Reduction Act numbers that are being bandied around, which is really throwing everybody off in the money markets, where they're going, well, okay, Canada is just spending an insane amount of money that never is going to exist, even theoretically, but there's still less than 10% total debt than what the Biden administration is talking about doing. So what does that do to the Canadian dollar? It's like, I don't know. It's like one day it drops and they go, okay, it should be knocking hell out of itself, because Canada just doesn't have this kind of fiscal capacity. And then but nobody's ditching their Canadian dollars and stampeding into U.S. dollars, so that makes it go up. But then it goes up, and it's like, but we're comparing it to the Biden administration, which is like, trillions and trillions of dollars over the next 10 years or whatever. No, we're going to have this drop again. It's the closest analogy is if you take a raisin and a glass of champagne, because of the nature of the dried gases inside of the raisin will drop to the bottom of the champagne glass and then rise to the top, and then sink to the bottom and then rise to the top until you actually take the raisin out of your champagne, because it's not doing any favors for the flavor of the champagne, trust me. So that was why I suggested it. I thought, okay, the average American knows absolutely nothing about this. The average Canadian knows nothing about this. Those of us who OCD check the exchange rate on the Canadian dollar on a daily basis. I look at the headlines. I look at what Chrystia Freeland put, hallucinations she put in her budget, and I go, okay, so what did that do to the Canadian dollar? And it's like, it went up. How could it go up? These are hallucinations. These have nothing to do with reality. And it's like, this is why I can never figure out, should I be depositing my diamond check into the U.S. dollar account or into the Canadian dollar account? I don't know. Depends on the day. There are days that when I used to do the deposits, I could have just stood at the teller and deposited the money into the U.S. account and withdrew it and deposited it in the Canadian account, went to the back of the line, and then did the reverse process and would be making out like a bandit. There are other days where that would be a good way to just completely eradicate a diamond check by not just sticking with the one thing that you did, standing in line, and it was just a happy coincidence. Sometimes if I knew the teller, I would say, can you run that? There's nobody in line behind me. Can you just run that whole process again and tell me if I had just withdrawn the check from the U.S. account and deposited it into the Canadian again, how I'd be doing? And I'd end up making like $45, $47 or something like that. And it's like, well, you can do that, but Grandpa would really rather write and draw a comic book.
I remember years and years ago when I was a little kid, we were going through Canada on a trip, and we stopped for gas, and I had like $2 American dollars, and I was buying something. I had exact change for what the price was supposed to be, and when I handed it to the cashier, they handed me my change, and I'm like, what? And then it dawned on me, oh yeah, I'm in Canada. The price is different.
That's right. That's right. And it's completely unpredictable. When COVID hit, I happened to be in the bank when all of the lockdowns happened, like March 18th or whatever it was, and I was depositing a check, and the teller said, I've never seen this before. It was actually 50-cent dollars. The Canadian dollar was valued at $1.50 US, or the US dollar was valued at 50 cents Canadian, or the reverse of that. But anyway, I was sitting there going, is this just the start of it and it's going to get even better than that? Or should I just take all of the money in the U.S. account and deposit it today? Just transfer the whole works, leave $1 US in the U.S. account. And that would definitely have been the preferred course of action. But same as in Las Vegas, you don't know. You don't know, am I acting prematurely, or is this